Before we start tonight's program, this is a reminder that this episode will address various topics related to mental health, addiction, and a reminder about multiple sclerosis. This may be sensitive to some of our viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. We remind you to please consult your doctor, your mental health professional, your outreach group, your sponsor, or specialist before adopting any change to your dietary, physical, and or mental health regime. The reason why we bring this up tonight is that Sunday is World Mental Health Day 2021, and this year's theme is mental health care for all. Let's make it a reality. Given the continuation of what the pandemic has brought us, mental health has become more and more of a paramount concern. Fortunately, there are many resources to turn to in the United States with respect to mental health, one of which would be SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. The service is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and is a confidential, free information service to help family members and individuals facing such stressors. Importantly, if you're feeling suicidal crisis or emotional distress and need to be put in touch with a crisis center, please call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can also text the word HOME to 741-741. Those resources are also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then something that we've been talking about since the beginning of the year, but is very important, I think, this week going into next Thursday, and we'll talk about that in a second, is the National MS Society and Multiple Sclerosis. It's a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about MS now, to move together towards a world free of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is comprised of unpredictable and often disabling flare-ups of the central nervous system. Such flare-ups disrupt the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. The National MS Society is the largest private funder of MS researchers in the world, investing more than $1 billion to date. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Once again, 1-800-344-4867. Or go to their website at nationalmssociety.org. Thank you for all of you who have donated money to this amazing organization, even those that wanted to learn more about multiple sclerosis and demyelination and what me and over 1 million people in this country are going through right now. It touches us in so many ways, and we appreciate all of you. Beyond that, let's begin. Sunday is World Mental Health Day. We've talked about the importance of mental health before on this show, and how important that is in addition to our physical health, as the two truly work in tandem. One of the ways we stay sharp mentally is by taking up new things, always reinventing ourselves. Tonight's guest is no stranger to this program. He is a co-host of VF Talks that airs on Friday nights. He is an incredible YouTube talent. He is a self-professed piano expert, although he'll say that he plays the piano poorly. I disagree. And he takes on many different things with such curiosity, such adoration. It is an honor and pleasure to talk about the importance of staying sharp with someone I call a very dear friend. Tonight we talk to Matt Haas. This is The Venture Forward. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. I am John Venturini, a recovering addict of overeating, obesity, alcoholism, and compulsive gambling, and it is an honor and pleasure to see all of you tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Tonight, we talk to a dear friend, because I think in the last couple weeks, and I actually lamented this to him either this morning or the other day, the sense that people are coming to me saying, what do I do to break out of this rut? What do I do to reinvent myself? What do I do to go forward? No pun to the show or whatnot, but that's what they're thinking. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, who's the one person I know, I've grown to know in the last year and a half, that personifies that? That's tonight's guest. And we'll talk to him in maybe a minute, maybe a half minute. But I want to say hi to all of you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And that we have Sarah Steele over on Facebook, who says, still made it, still working through. Well, I'm glad you're working through. Glad you made it. Glad you're here tonight. Good to see you as always, as I try to make the text bigger, because unless it's an eye exam, I would have a hard time reading it. So there you go. Jamie over on YouTube says hi. Well, Jamie, hi to you. Hope you're doing well. And also says shalom. Well, shalom to you too. And then, funny enough, this All Things YouTube, I think, has a lot to do with our guest, in the sense that, let me just make sure this is okay. And there he is. It's Matt Haas, ladies and gentlemen.
John Venturini, how are you, my friend?
I am doing well, and we're doing this, and it's not a Friday night doing a VF Talks. We're actually having a conversation on the main show tonight.
What's going on?
Well,
up is down, down is up. Cats are dogs. It's crazy.
It's a little strange, isn't it?
How's my audio level compared to yours?
Well, I would say you're the first guest of Venture to ever ask that question, so your audio is fine.
Okay. Oh, look at this. You put my website under my
I
name.
most certainly did.
Nothing but the best from the Venture Forward.
I do what I can, Matt. I do what I can.
We're actually like the same position on the screen. Like I'm not way far away.
Well, if you want to go far away, that's fine. I mean, whatever you want, Matt. This is your show. I mean,
you've really classed the place up. I'm impressed.
Well, it's the Tuesday, Thursday show is a little different than the Friday night show. I know. I get it. You think there'd be different graphics, maybe a different... No, almost the same graphics, but it feels different.
Come on. It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So when we were talking about concepts for tonight's title, you said, I went with my obvious, as a conversation with Matt. And you said, totally destroying mediocrity. So run us through that. Where in your mind has the thought of totally destroying mediocrity has come to the forefront for you?
Well, it started with me understanding a Latin phrase, sort of an epiphany of sorts. Memento mori.
Memento mori.
Memento mori.
What does that mean?
It means understanding that you will eventually die. I know it's dark. I know it's dark, but it's come on. Come on. Like that should be the driving force behind all decisions. It's like, don't be afraid of dying. Be afraid of not living while you're alive.
Right.
So I had that realization a while ago, and I'm like, you know what? You only get so many years.
Yeah, you get a set number of years, and it's not always the same, and you take every day as it comes. You live in the present. You don't live in the future, because the future is no guarantee, and you don't dwell upon the past. You learn from the past, right?
There you go. So that's what drives me. And it's weird, because some people will say, like, Matt, I love the stuff you post. You do such awesome things. Like, can you be a life coach, please? I'm like, a life coach? I'm like, I wouldn't have any lessons. My lessons would be, do whatever the hell you want. And don't care what other people think.
And somewhere in this world, you'll find someone to pay you to do exactly that.
Yeah. So that's about as dark as I'll get. But it is a legit concept from philosophers, especially Stoic philosophers, is understanding that one day you won't be here, and that's how you can drive your decision making throughout this world. And I've done your question was, where did the concept of totally destroy mediocrity come from? It comes from that. And it's to the point where if I'm complacent and I'm lethargic and I'm just vegging out, it annoys me. Like, I don't want that I don't sit still. Like, my type of vacation is go, 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 go. After my vacation, I need a week to recover from that's the type of person I am. And I go all in. And I love to learn. This is another thing. All of humanity's knowledge has been written down. It's just there. Just go get it. It's not that hard to go find this stuff. And anything that comes across as, oh, that's kind of interesting. Oh, that's kind of cool. You can just dive in and absorb all the knowledge about any given subject. And I love that. I love to learn. I have a thirst for knowledge across many different disciplines. Now, my content.
That's okay. I get there. Go ahead.
I think I'm predicting your questions.
Well, you're spot on. So keep going.
Now, for content, I'm very picky about what I'll put forward out there to the world, because when you're making content, it requires more labor and more time, and more time takes away from stuff. Although I love a lot of different subjects, I'm not willing to put the extra time in to share that subject with the world.
And it's funny because we talked about the different things that you are absolutely into, and I said, I created slides for this episode, and you said, what, are you crazy? You create slides? But let me at least go there for a second, right? So
okay,
there's the thumbnail, right? So thank you, Canva, because there's that. But let's talk exactly to a few facets about you. You say that you're a lion attack survivor. So obviously there's a picture of a lion in the upper right-hand corner. You're a taco enthusiast because you always are about tacos and giving away real tacos. And there it is. There's the taco. There's the taco. You're a self-proclaimed Wac-a-Mole World Champion. We have to pick that apart a bit. I need to know exactly how that happened. But then also, you called yourself someone who plays the piano somewhat poorly. Now, I got to tell you, I'm going to go to Maine for a second. You play the piano quite well. So I don't know why you say you play the piano poorly. I mean, sometimes you have maybe a misstep when you're trying to record video for whatever YouTube video you're doing, but you're good. You're a quick study. You learn.
The piano has been now 2.5 years I've been learning, and I am only at the very, very beginning. Very, very beginning. It is a complicated, a lifelong process to master that instrument. So I am nowhere near where I could be. I have to fight through the sheet music to find it correctly. Some people just look at sheet music and go. They need nothing else and they can play it perfectly. I am 10 years away from that, if not more. That's why I'm somewhat poor. Now, have I increased my skill a lot from when I started? Heck yeah. Now, Okay, I think I can anticipate another question you might have.
Well, before you do that, Sarah says it's an instrument that will humble you. So
it's brutal. It is a brutal experience learning that instrument. It's because it's so unforgiving. Like it won't play it right for you. Like you have to play it right, or it's gonna sound like nails on a chalkboard. And it's timing too. It's not just playing the note, it's playing the note when you're supposed to play it for as long as you're supposed to hold the note down. And sometimes it's even how hard you strike it is part of it. And
that's why
you
Jamie
have to
says
do that.
easy does it, Matt, and you do better than you think, I'm sure.
Yeah. 10 fingers. You've got 10 fingers you have to manipulate. Like this is what you can do after playing the piano. You do things like this. Do you have the control to like that's how you right. Each finger has to be moved independent. It's crazy. So it's been a humbling experience. But the reason I did the piano was because I was a creative professional my entire life. Even as a kid in school, I loved art, and I've mastered the visual arts, and I wanted to take that now into music because that seemed like the last frontier. So yeah.
Do you find the same sort of element about, finger dexterity being true with your other love of, say, whack-a-mole?
No, whack-a-mole has very little to do with finger dexterity and more to do with smashing the moles as they come up. And I got my technique down pat. I'll even tell you my technique because it'll bolster your self-confidence. You'll probably want to bet me. I'm talking to the whole audience, and then I will crush you because I am a humble person. I don't like to brag, but I am the best there is at whack-a-mole. The secret to me, I look dead in the center. Everything's peripheral vision. And then when I strike, I yank it back up to the reset position so I have my vision clear of the board. Like, so there's never the big mallet, obscuring a mole that might be coming up. And you gotta be fast. As soon as you see that sucker move, wham, you gotta whack it. So anyway, I never these prizes here like this. My piano beaver is a prize from playing whack-a-mole, and so is the MIDI monkey in the back there, which you can't see. It's off camera. Anyway,
do you have like a cherished prize wall of the various prizes and trinkets you've won?
No, just these two, but there, and I have the larger version of the monkey as well. I typically gift the prizes I win to other people that are playing that are feeling bad because I ruthlessly destroyed them and suck the will out of their soul because I'm so good at whack-a-mole. I will usually go over to the parents of, say, a kid that was playing and say, if you want, you can give this to you. I don't want it. I just like to play. I don't like the prizes. I like to play. That's what I
and more so than, say, skee ball or air hockey or it's whack-a-mole. It's always
whack-a-mole.
Okay.
Whack-a-mole all the way. Although, I will get in on Dave and Buster's, and I'll do a lot of those, all the different types of games. But my love is with whack-a-mole. It's funny. You started with like the fun slide. Like this is just crazy stuff slide. This isn't.
Just we make you comfortable. We talk about whacking moles. We talk about surviving a lion attack. Surviving a lion attack.
I got bit by a lion in Mexico.
When did that happen?
This is a joke thing, but it's fun. It's not. It actually did happen. It's fun to say I'm a survivor. Oh, what did you survive, man? I got mauled by a lion. Oh my god. No, it was one of those hold and pet the lion for a photo type thing, and it was an adolescent. His name was Simba. It was a male, and I got to pet him, and he did bite me. Now, it didn't break the skin, but I took a picture of the puncture marks. So it legit happened. And that's technically being attacked. I was attacked. It was a lion, and it did bite me. So by the letter of the law, I was attacked
By
by
the
a lion.
letter of the law. So the lion that's in that photo over there
No, that
is
was
not
not what.
Simba.
It was an
Simba, right?
adolescent. It must have been, less than a year old.
Yeah. So not as furious and ferocious as the
I have
lion
a
that's
photo
on
of
the
him.
phone. No?
Do you want me to show?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Too many button pushes. I don't
Too
want to
many
throw you off.
buttons.
I don't want to bring down the show. Okay, let me get the share screen going.
I'm going to main for a second, and then we'll bring this up. There you are. There's your screen. Everything you do it for you. Bryan Adams song. There's Simba when he's not biting people or you. Are you on mute? I think you're on mute. So you were laughing before. What about Simba?
I was just saying that's the ferocious beast that bit me.
The ferocious beast that bit you.
Yeah. But that's the driver is, I don't want to be complacent. I feel good after I achieve something, I learn something, I build something, I create art. That's what I like. If I go a couple days not really doing that, I'm like, ugh. I don't like it. Basically, I work all day, I do creative stuff all evening, and then right before I'm about to pass out, I'll watch a little bit of streaming, and then I start all over again. That's how I live. That's how I live my life. So we got another one.
Yeah, you're talking about your creative elements there, and by Adobe Illustrator and video
I'm
production.
a certified expert. I got the test. Yeah, I know everything about that program. I started out with desktop publishing, and so I know all about pre-press. From a printing point of view, the cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and overprinting and things like that. Got all of that down. So the 2D world I mastered very quickly, the visual world. Then I've been doing video editing for 8, 9, 10 years now with my YouTube endeavors. So that was another hard thing because it's still images, but over time. So it's kind of like a whole new dimension to the visual world. And there was some audio in that. I also had a lot of trouble with audio, so I made the mistake of just buying the best equipment that I could buy, spending way too much money because I couldn't solve it. It was just, I was getting horrible sound and I just couldn't make it better. So I'm like, maybe if I buy good equipment, it'll work. And it kind of worked. So then I'm like, okay, so now that I've been moving into piano, I'm like, well, let's start recording this stuff. And that's a whole other discipline. So I've been starting to do music production and then capturing the instrument and capturing the MIDI input from the instrument and then layering on the instrument and software. It's a whole big thing. Music theory is something I'm trying to learn, and it's one of those humbling experiences because it's not easy to learn. It's a difficult concept. A lot of whole, half, whole, half. I'm like, ooh, why? Well, it's like, why is this a B flat and also an A sharp? Why does it have two names? And a C flat is also called a B.
Maybe it's multiple personalities. You think?
I don't. It's tough. And then all of the learning material, it's either as if you know this stuff already and they try and go into some weird obscure part of it, or it's so basic it just drags on. Like the only thing I could find is a full college level course, like 7 hours worth of instruction or 20 minutes. I'm like, I kind of need like an in-between course to figure that out.
But where's the one in the middle?
I do like it because it's about resonances and the different frequencies of the notes. And it's just a fascinating subject because they didn't divide it up exactly. It's not exactly all divided up. Some of the keys are a hint sharp or a hint flat. So it's like, why'd they do it that way? I haven't quite figured. I want to re-engineer the piano where all 12 keys of the octave are exactly spaced away from each other on the frequency. Anyway, I'm falling into that. Woodworking is something I've done for, I guess, a relatively short time, over 10 years now. That's my channel for woodworking. That started because I got a little circular saw, little 3-inch wheel circular saw, and a drill in a kit because I bought a house. And I'm like, okay, I need to put a cat door on the downstairs door. So I did this with my tools. I'm like, oh, that was fun. What else can I do? And I started butt joining all kinds of different stands for televisions, just slapping the stuff together. And I'm like, you know what? My high school, when I was in high school, they had a wood shop. And I had all my academic stuff. I had to take an elective, you know, because you just can't twiddle your thumbs. I'm like, I'll take decorative wood carving. That seems like fun. So I did that. So there was a decorative wood carving class and there was a full wood shop class going on at the same period in the same room, the same big warehouse where they had all the woodworking equipment. So I got to see these people use the table saw, use the bandsaw, use the drill press, use the big disc sander. And I said to myself, when I owned this house and I had these 2 little battery operated tools, I'm like, you know, I should call my high school and see if they'll let me just come in and use the equipment, because I would really like to use the equipment. I'm like, you know what? Why would they let an adult, because, you know, I'm 35 years, you know, I'm like, why would they let an adult back in a public school? I'm like, plus the liability. And I'm like, wait a minute, Matt. What am I thinking? I'm like, I am an adult and I have disposable income. Like, I could buy my own tools. I started buying my tools. I started watching YouTube about how to join the different wood in different ways, because I got tired of just butt joints. Like, that's not very stable. And so I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. And I fell down the rabbit hole, and I love creating stuff physically, because when I turn off the computer, all my computer art goes away, but not a physical object. If I have a physical object, it's there. I don't, it doesn't poof, go anyway. So, yeah, I got into that crowd. I run in a lot of circles. Like, I've got the 4 YouTube channels. I got the Piano Awesome, got the Awesome Wood Things, All Things YouTube, and Awesome Fun Things, which is just like a blog miscellaneous channel. But I run in a lot more circles than that.
So that's a very interesting question, because there are a lot of people that say that I don't know what to do, and all I have the energy to do is just twiddle my thumbs and do whatever. And then they wonder, well, why can't I get anything going? What would you say to that? I mean, I'm sure you've had people tell you the same thing too.
Here's the answer. All right, sitting down. This is going to be profound.
I think I'm sitting now. I'm saying that.
Get ready to clip what I'm about to say, because this is the money shot.
All right, I'll get you solo on this. So here we go.
If your aspiration is to put this endeavor out to the world on video, I love the YouTubes. We'll say YouTube. Absolutely do it. You don't have to be the best at it. You don't have to know what you're doing. It's entertaining watching someone figure this out. It's entertaining watching someone fail and then do it right. It's entertaining watching someone learn. I have a piano channel and I'm horrible at piano. I put it out there anyway, and people watch it, and they can see me progress as I put out these cover songs. And it's an enjoyable. So first is that it is entertaining content, and you don't have to know it all. You don't have to know it all. Just watching someone go through the experience is entertainment enough for most people out there on the internet. If your content is, you want to teach people, all you need to do is know something one more than the person out there. You don't need to know it all. There's some people helping people with Facebook. They don't know everything about Facebook, but they know how to do one more thing than the person watching. So that's the first thing. Just do it. Put your stuff out if you want to share it. But if your question is, how do I get something going just for myself? I don't want to actually share it. And if the concern is I might not be good enough, I might not succeed, there's people doing it better. If that's, and you just want to do it just for yourself, not sharing it with the world. If that's the space you're in, then you got to move into, why do you care what some rando thinks? Like, you don't give anyone on the internet or anyone around you, you don't need their validation for anything. It's like, what are you afraid of? Someone thinks you're not going to be able to do it, and maybe you're not able to do it. They're going to call you out for not doing. So what? Who cares what other people think? Right. And I have a saying for that has some bad words in it. I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
Fuck that motherfucker.
That's right. Fuck that motherfucker.
That's what you got to say. You got fuck that motherfucker.
Right. That's like, absolutely right.
So, like, who cares what someone, anytime, like, I'm faced with, what's other people going to think? Who gives a rat's behind what people think?
What's funny is you just dropped the F-bomb twice, and I had dropped the F-bomb twice with you, and then it goes back to a rat's behind. That's funny.
Well, I turn it off. Like, I was an elected school director. So you can't drop any F-bombs.
No.
So I learned to turn that sucker way off.
Speaking of dropping F-bombs, Easy says, go dig a ditch 40 feet in length, 6 inches deep, and 6 inches wide if you're bored.
Yeah.
And then Jamie says, I love that, Matt. Gotta fail to succeed. Great reminder I needed today.
Yeah. So if you're afraid to start, stop caring what other people think. And it's hard to, like, I fail all the time. I fail all the time. I actually get a little bit nervous and scared when I don't fail. It's like, it's a part of the process.
So wait, when Mercury's in retrograde, that means things actually go right for you? How does that work? My mind's blown now. It's like,
well, astrology is something I have no patience for.
Okay. Okay.
Astronomy,
however,
I'm there all day, every day.
Right.
But,
Astrology, however, whether you're a Libra or a Leo or a Gemini, we don't care.
And see, that's the other thing. Once you get to the level I am, it's not only about embracing things you like, it's about shutting down things you don't like, or not paying any attention to things that don't matter. A lot of things don't matter. Also, saying no.
Mm-hmm.
No. N-O, period. It's a full sentence. It's got everything in it. It's a one-word, fully constructed sentence. People who are successful say no all the time. All the time. So you have to do that. You have to do that. Matt, can you make me a step stool in your wood shop? No. Well, why not? You got all the tools. I know. Well, you only work for your full-time job five days a week. Well, don't you have time? Yeah, I got time. Well, then can you do it? No, I'm not doing it. Why? Because it takes time away from all of my other endeavors. And I should say, if you ask me to make something in the wood shop and it meets the criteria for my YouTube channel, then I will do it. But your shelves, your entertainment center, your step stools, that is not something that warrants being a video on my YouTube channel.
Well, it's also a corollary to if you give an inch, they take a mile, and we don't like people who take miles when we offer them inches.
Yeah. A good life tip about that is if someone asks you for something and it requires, if you can put a requirement on the person asking, even something minor, if they've got to lift a finger, sometimes they'll withdraw the ask. You know, it's like, can you make me a logo, for example, which I don't do logos anymore. Sure. Give me 20 reference pieces of things that you kind of like. Oh, okay. Then you never hear from them again. You know, just something anyway. But I love doing things for people. I will do a lot of things for people, but it just depends on the level of effort that is required, and if it fits in with stuff. Now, when people ask me to go somewhere and do something and be active outside of the four walls of my house, always try and say yes. If unless I have a conflict with something else, my default go-to is, because I want experiences. You know, no one wants to think back.
We don't want any regrets. We want to have the ability to go through these things and say, at least we've done it.
It's like, oh, I watched a lot of sitcoms on TV. I watched every season of something. I'm like, who cares? You know, I want to, oh, yeah, I went to that sporting event, or, you know, I jumped out of an airplane, or I did this, or I did that, or I went to Jamaica and swam with dolphins, or something. Yeah. You know, that's another framework. But happiness is doing what you want and not caring what other people think. Not caring what other people think. If you just remove that from your life will substantially get better. I hear people like, oh, I don't want to do this because, you know, such and such will think this, or such. I don't want to be thought of as this, or I don't want to be thought of as that. Who gives a rat's behind? Do what you want.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day,
you should have a good moral center. Like, don't do untoward and unscrupulous things. But, you know, people are going to think what they're going to think, and it's meaningless. It's meaningless.
It also infuriates me when that sort of verbiage or that sort of thought comes from someone who usually plays, and I'm going to throw a mental health term for a second, usually plays the victim persona. Like, they don't want to work through their misery. They don't want to work through the things that are holding them back. They'd rather just be easier, just saying, woe is me, and I'm not going to do anything to go past it. And I say this because at a time in my life, I used to be guilty of that too, when I don't know, it's 480 pounds, and I used to drink, and I used to gamble, and it took a long time for me to work away from that. But I know there's no utility for it either.
Speaking of that, I have another grounding principle that I follow that I call make it happen. You have to make things happen in this world. And along with that goes permission not needed. So with that in mind, yeah, you can't be complacent. You can't be, I am being acted upon by the world. Like, that's not the position that I like to be on. I don't like when there's actors acting upon me and then I'm bearing the repercussion of someone else's action. Now, you go through life, that's part of life. But I try and minimize that as much as possible. And when I am acted upon in a negative way, then my concept is, You need to go to the source, the person or group that can change it, and complain there. I don't complain on the interweb about things that the internet cannot help me solve. Mm-hmm. Like if there's a problem, it's not that I never complain. I complain, but I complain to the group or person. Like for example, my car got broken into. We were going on a family trip to see my sister-in-law, packed the car with everything, DVD player, everything's in the car. The bikes were bolted onto the back, thank God. Someone ransacked the car and just took everything. And I was like, what's going on? So we did the police report. That goes nowhere, of course, because that all never goes anywhere. And I just got to thinking, I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me that there's crime in my neighborhood? I'm lulled into a false sense of security because the paper wasn't printing it, because the papers are going under and they need their column space. They don't have room for crime reports. The township's not doing anything about it. No one's doing it. I went to the township commissioner meeting and spoke up during the public comment portion. And I'm like, why aren't you guys telling any of this? At least let us know what's happening. And I said, there is a piece of technology out there, a service only for police officers, where you can text people who opt in. It doesn't force it to people who don't want it. So the township people opt in and they can get tech crime alerts directly from the police. It's like through text messages. I'm like, can you do this? It's free service and it's only for police and it's opt-in from the public. What's not to love? And they're like, we would love to do that, Mr. Haas, but we're not tech experts. We can't set it up. I'm like, I'm a tech expert. I'll get it off the ground for you. Next thing I know, I'm talking to the sergeant or the lieutenant, and then I'm teaching a class to 20 uniformed police officers. Here I am telling them what to do.
Right.
It was quite the shock, but I did it. And you go to the source. Same thing. My school wanted to ban cell phones. They said no cell phones from kids. I'm like, what the heck? I mean, cell phones are a part of being a person nowadays. You can't strip that out of the kids. And so I went to the school board. I made a public comment. I was like, you know, your policy has the word prohibition in it. I'm like, what is this? Is this the 20s? I'm like, what are you doing? They need this because of X, Y, Z. And then so I will complain. I never vague book. Do you ever hear that term, vague booking?
Yeah.
Where people are like, I'm feeling so down today. And that's all they put. And then people pile, what's wrong? I never do that. One of my friends says, oh yeah, Matt, you vague book all the time. I'm like, I'll bet you $100 and I'll give you a half hour to scroll through my wall. If you find one instance of vague booking, I'll give you $100. If you lose, you give me $1.
Wow.
Okay, I'll do it.
100 to 1.
Guess who got the dollar at the end of that exercise?
You.
I'm like, yeah. Say it walking, buddy.
Boom.
Anyway, so
some comments from Easy as you're going off there, and I wanted to bring a couple of these up real quick.
Yeah.
Easy says, I dug that out because I had to replace borders in my front lawn, and someone had the audacity to walk out on my lawn, and I yelled, "Get off my lawn, man." I reckon that you probably used a couple of four-letter words in that, but I'm just going to say, for the sake of this conversation, it's "get off my lawn, man."
See, here's the thing. Before we pull up the next one.
Sure. I'll hide it. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's like, if someone does you dirty, my philosophy is, you got to tell them right then and there. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to change your mind, but you can't do nothing. So if someone does a snide comment or tries to knock me down a peg, you got to speak up. Yeah. Again, you're not trying to solve or fix or, whatever. It's just, there needs to be that friction, at least.
The reason why I said he probably used some four-letter words in the next statement was, the next comment was, it took a lot of balls to do a fourth step and go tell someone. That's why many die of alcoholism and drug addiction. When I did it, I am a free man.
Fourth step. What's the fourth step?
In the 12 steps.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anyway, but
The fourth step in composing a ditch. No, the fourth step of yeah.
I got you. I'm not. See, this is the thing that kind of concerned me. I'm not coming from the fighting addiction world, although I did get close with alcohol. But I was told, once you're an alcoholic for life. You're always recovering. You can't have a drink again. I was like, the F with that. Like, so I got it under control. Anyway.
Easy also didn't realize that there was an art to complaining. You mentioned before that there's an art to complaining.
It's just don't be a complaining little bitch. And then if you do complain, complain to the person or group that can give you the outcome. That's the way I roll. It's just not worth your time. See, everything goes back to time. That's why I'm obsessed with time. One of my little slides, I put watches.
Yeah, and let me actually get up there for a second.
Horology.
Did
you know horology is a word? It's the love of watches.
Yeah, horology.
I freaking love watches. I would collect watches, but I found the perfect one. And believe me, with my mentality, it's hard to find something perfect, but I love it. Anyway. So
yeah, I mean, horology, the other thing that you don't mention, which I don't think is technically a fun thing, but you know your fonts a lot. You're big on your typography.
I love typography. It's literally an art form. And I built my own font. It's called Haas Light. That was fun. I had Typographer, which was a app. And yeah, it's part of design. And you know, fonts, kerning, learn kerning, look up the word kerning, live it and love it, because there are some horribly kerned things out there. But no, typefaces are awesome. I love them.
Easy collects watches too, and they were free. With a wink. And then Easy also says, hey Matt, when someone makes a snide remark, etc., I wait until they're finished. Then I ask them, has your self-esteem gone up?
Yeah, that's a good comeback. I mean, I'm usually snappy, and I can usually verbally destroy someone. But I tend not to go there. I'm a happy guy. I don't want to cause any trouble.
Jamie says you can have the principles without the addiction. Yeah. And it's not necessarily having a dry addiction either. You could have the principles and have that basically limit you. So working through that, which is just mental health in general. But yeah.
I mean, another thing to kind of get your life going the way you want is understanding what you will allow will continue. Mm-hmm. And that's why I give a little frick. Like if someone puts a dig in, you get a little bit of friction from me back, and sometimes more, but at minimum you get the friction.
The extra the extra sniding, it costs extra, right? So if you
the idea is, you know, the next time they want to throw shade at someone, they won't pick me the next time. Like right. That's the goal. Ideally, they won't pick anyone, because if I see someone picking on someone, then I'll jump in on that too. But, yeah.
Jamie reminding us, technically it is the 20s, and I dislike vague booking or vlog.
I mean, if vague booking is your thing, you go for it. It's not something I think is productive, because again, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to be not productive, but I like producing and learning different things. And some of the crap just gets in the way of that. Vague booking is like, I don't want to get sucked into a Facebook thread where I say something's wrong, being vague about it, and then going through multiple. I don't need that. I don't want that.
No. It
takes time away.
We have a familiar friend in the room. Sammy Superstar says, hey, and he says, it is very nice to see you back in the studio. It's great to be back in the studio, although I did have a pretty nice little setup in Los Angeles. Just saying.
Austinator's here too.
Austin also says, hey, JV, or Austin, how are you? It says, hey, JV, hey, Matt. I'm saying also, but this is the first comment he's made. So, hey, Austin, how you doing?
Yep. So, yeah, I tend to go all in on things that I'm excited about. And, oh, there's some productivity stuff there. This is some cool marketing. Marketing is the secret to success. It truly is 80% of success, because in order to be successful, you got to get other people to do something. So you got to get in front of other people. Whether you have a YouTube channel, whether you're selling a product, whether you're selling a service, you need to get the word out. If you don't have marketing, you can have the best product. No one's going to know about it. And sales, everyone on the planet should take a sales course, because you use it in all of your interactions, not just business. You're talking to a sales clerk. You're talking to your friends. You're talking to your family. You know, sales is getting someone to do something. That's what sales is. And there's techniques that you can learn to get someone to do something that you want. That's what, no one can be successful onto themselves. You need other people. That's why my All Things YouTube channel, it's really a grow an audience channel. And then, you know, marketing and sales are a big part of that endeavor. Everyone should take a sales course. Personal finance, I'm starting to, you know, that's kind of a fun topic. That,
I think, you know, whether it's the work of Carnegie or how to influence people, I think to learn how to wow people and try to sell them and be very persuasive is very important. It's a very important skill if you're in a sales sort of organization or even pre-sales. But like
even moderately persuasive is better than not. Oh, business analysis. See, look what I put there. Like when I like working with top leadership. Why? Because they can make decisions without a committee. Just, again, it's minutia. I don't like minutia and busy work and just stuff that doesn't get the result. When I go into a company and I'm like, this is what you need, do this, and do this. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then it gets done. Like, you can't do that with middle management. You need to do that with senior management.
I had a very crass way of putting it way back in the day, eons ago, when I was a director at a Fortune 100. And we had these big projects, and they required committees. Not just one committee. This is plural. I needed a steering committee and an operating committee, and I think there was a third committee, which is escaping me right now. I think it's PTSD that's making me not remember that. But it's like I called it leadership by kumbaya. And it was like nothing got done because it had to go through this committee and then a leadership team, a set of leaders. Like, how does anything get done? And like, that's why projects that should have taken 2 months ended up taking 10 months. Wow. No joke. Factor of 5.
Love him or hate him, but Elon Musk will stand up and walk out of meetings if it's boring him or if it's a topic that he shouldn't be talking about. And he's actually has the mantra, less meetings, get stuff done. I think there's something to that. So,
well, yeah, we've become very, very meeting happy. And like, we will schedule meetings for the sake of scheduling meetings without any sort of objective, sending out blank Outlook invites without any sort of agenda. And like, this is just going to magically happen. I think the more scary thing is when you have that sort of meeting that is more than internal, that's blank. I think if you have any sort of meeting that's with any sort of prospect, you should have some sort of an agenda, I would think.
Google. I was on site at Google because they wanted to talk to me. Not that I was touring or I wasn't there to see a friend. They're like, come to Google. We want to talk to you, Matt. And do you know how Google runs meetings? It's amazing. First, they have a countdown clock at the top, counting down to the end of the meeting. It's always there. Then they've got the running notes, and they have someone assigned just to take the notes that you can see being taken in real time during the meeting. And they'll have the agenda up there, what they're going over. And then everything's recorded, so if you miss the meeting, you can watch it back. How much sense does that make?
It's a ton of sense. Ton of sense.
It's all there, you know?
And it's a bit more than using some sort of bot or service to come up with that sort of audio to text transcription. If you have a service that can come up with the mind mapping that comes off of the thought, well, now you've just got next level, right? Now you can tie those thoughts together in some sort of logical form.
That's essentially what I do in my full-time job. I'm a business analyst, so I take all parts of the business and diagram it. And what happens is, if you do it right, you can see inefficiencies, and then you work with leadership to change the processes that led to that inefficiency. And so it's a fascinating thing where you learn all parts of the business. You got to be jack of all trades. Well, not jack of all, but you need to understand all of the actions that produce the outputs.
Do you consider yourself a generalist?
Generalist is more of an HR term and a legal term. That doesn't apply to business analyst. Business analyst, well, it is what I've described. It's a fun thing because organizing the chaos and finding faster, better, cheaper. That's what I do. Oh, this is my geeky stuff. I love this stuff. This is all the stuff I've learned because I just have a thirst for knowledge. I mean, none of this is possible without one type of thing that happened to me along my life, because I started as an illustrator. I went to art school. I have a design degree, and I started doing textbook illustrations for the college textbook industry. So it's an art house to sell. And I was good at it. I was really good at it. I said I'm an Adobe Illustrator expert. I'm a certified expert. And what do they do? What do they do in business when you're good at something? Then they promote you to supervisor. Then they promote you to manager. Then I was managing all of production. Then I was essentially second in charge. I ran that company debt-free for a decade. We had 35 employees, debt-free. And okay, how does this relate to the geek part? As I had responsibilities, I was being less and less creative. What do? I database everything to take less time doing the boring minutia stuff. I had to track vacation days and stupid stuff that I like. This is so dumb that I want to be creative. I want to do art. So I databased everything, and I taught myself essentially web development. I started out with FileMaker Pro, which is a desktop Mac only database. Now it's Mac and PC. I think Apple bought it. Now it's Mac again, whatever. But that taught me the fundamentals of database architecture. And then I learned that into web development. And I learned the front end programming and the back end web development. And then to do that, you've got to cobble together all of the server architecture pieces, because it's not just there's your Dell server, it's running everything. No, you've got the web server, you've got the database server, you've got the gateways, you've got all of the things. There's many, the S3 file storage. You got to bolt it all in. So you need to understand this stuff. And I like I said, better, faster, cheaper. I fell into the database, the cataloging. I realized that people with a library degree, like how boring do you think being a librarian? No, it's a fascinating field. Like they know how to catalog, and it's not just Dewey Decimal, anything. Like, for example, did you notice like Star Trek? Like, you love Star Trek Next Generation.
Sure.
When Picard orders his tea, he says tea Earl Grey hot. Do you know why he says it in that order? It's because that's the taxonomy that a computer would most want to have, because you say
hierarchy.
tea, and then it excludes everything that's not tea. Yeah. Okay? Like if you just said hot, that would be 50% of all food. But if you said tea, that's only 1% of all food. So tea is the top level. Earl Grey is the type of tea, and then there's only two choices, cold or hot. Tea, Earl Grey, hot. That's taxonomy in a nutshell.
And anyone who has known how to deal with a OLAP or a HOLAP or a MOLAP or a ROLAP knows the importance of hierarchies as far as memory processing when you're trying to congregate data together, as far as numerical computation, but also just the organization of data from category to metric.
So,
I feel better now.
Yeah, that's because one of my activities was asset management. Work for a publisher, they have millions of assets, and guess what? It's cheaper to pick up an asset you've already had creative, like an illustration or a photo that you've already paid for. It's cheaper to reuse it than it is to hire someone out to rebuild the damn thing. So there was a big cost savings with what I did with that, and that got me. So now I have 130,000 photographs that I've taken since. Yeah, my son was born 2000, and in 2001, I bought my first digital camera. I went to Macworld at the Javits Center in Manhattan, and I paid the 7% sales tax for New York, and I bought a digital camera. And
it's been a long time ago, because that sales tax has gone up drastically. Yeah. And 8 3/4, 9% now in New York City.
Yeah.
So
every digital photo I've taken, practically every one, unless I delete them right off the roll after I take them, which doesn't happen often, I've have them cataloged and backed up in triplicate. So it's fun stuff. But this is geeky stuff. I love. And talk about an unforgiving thing. Code. When you're writing code and that code throws you an error, it's not going to correct it for you. No. You've got to figure it the F out for it to work. It's not for the faint of heart. Same thing for playing the piano. It's an unforgiving instrument.
I think debuggers have gotten better over the years, but it's still not perfect. And you still need to overlook at your code, and you need to comment and use version control, whether you're using Git or anything else.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
People that like to complain loudly to fix things aren't good web developers, because you can scream at the computer all you want. Your code's not going to work. You got to put that colon where it needs to go, or the end bracket, or whatever it is you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
A couple of comments as we were talking about all things Python and SQL and R for a second or two. Easy says, Matt, what do you think about Shopify and its monthly fee rent if I wanted to sell products from ClickBank products or JV products?
I don't have Shopify. I don't know what their fee schedule is. But I'm a big fan of having your own website with your own store. But there's some business decisions that go along with that, because some ways to sell come with an audience, like Etsy. Etsy has an inbuilt audience that can find you on the platform. Etsy charges way more than you just setting up a credit card processor and a shopping cart, but you might not get the sales. So it just depends where you're at in your business. If you are bringing all of your customers to you, and that's a viable business model, then Shopify is a good partner, because they'll put your shopping cart on your own website. And I do like that. I love owning websites. I own 11 websites just for all of my shenanigans online. And I've built 107, maybe 106 I don't know if it's 106 or 107 websites. I have the admin codes too, because I used to do websites for small and medium-sized businesses and one very large business. I did one manual coding from the ground up, PHP, MySQL, and that thing is just crazy. But I did a whole video on that. But that 100 people a day use it. I only put in one invoice last year. It's just crazy. So, this is some fun stuff. See, this just speaks to how my mind works and how I like to fill it with knowledge. Do you know how nerdy you have to be to understand particle physics? Particle physics is freaking crazy. With the Large Hadron Collider, get this. So what they do is they take a helium atom and they blast away the electron until you get like just the middle bits. Just the one little tiny single thing in the middle, and they fire them at each other in a circle, and well, two circles. One's going clockwise, one's going counterclockwise, and they cross. And when they cross, they're heading right towards each other. And after a couple 100 million attempts, two of them will crash. And when I say 100 million, it's going at the speed of light. So 100 million goes by really quick. So think about this. You have one particle here, you have one particle here, and they smash into each other. Okay? So 1 + 1 equals what? Say it with me.
Last time I checked.
2.
All right.
So you would expect if 1 smashes into 1, you would have 2 things shooting off, right? Makes sense.
It would.
That's not what freaking happens.
No.
Dozens and dozens of this other crap just materializes out of nowhere. Shit is falling into our dimension from somewhere else when that event happens. It's crazy.
It's a small epsilon that comes off of that reaction. We always talk about A plus B plus epsilon. The epsilon is all the extra garbage that comes off of the reaction.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's not science fiction. That's not someone's theory. That's happening. General relativity. The general relativity, it sounds so basic. It's got the word general in it. Why do I want to deal with general relativity? Well, I want to deal with super awesome relativity. No, general relativity is mind blowing. Time ticks differently depending on how far away you are from a gravitational source. That's why.
If you ever wrote a physics textbook, would it be called Super Awesome Relativity? Just asking for a friend.
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
Probably not. But they couldn't get the GPS system to work. It wasn't working. And it has to do with time. You know, everything's in sync, and they send these pings out, and they listen for how long because the pings travel through space at the speed of light, but it's still traveling. They couldn't get within 200 yards of something. It's like, I should be able to know exactly where I'm at, the exact house where I'm at. Why am I going to the next neighborhood? It was because time was ticking at a different rate of speed, 14,000 miles an hour up above the stratosphere in low Earth orbit. And gravity isn't as harsh up there as it is on the surface.
Easy says that sounds like what happens when I take a drink when craving kicks in. LMAO, that's particle physics, that is, the reaction.
Well, I'm telling you. Yeah, so general relativity is all about how space and time are joined. And it's relative. Time for you is different than time from someone who's moving. It's crazy. There's an astronaut that spent a year in the space station. He lived an extra 0.3 of a second because time was ticking at a different rate. You think 0.3 of a second, that's hardly anything. It's measurable and substantial. Anyway, I love that. What else I got there?
You got economy.
Astrophysics. That is light. This is looking at things, looking at the light that can be collected, and it's fascinating. astrophysics. Neil deGrasse Tyson is an astrophysicist, and he is one of the coolest guys out there. I do want to get to Manhattan. Sometimes he will speak at the Hayden Planetarium, which he runs.
I love that place.
And I get the calendars to see when he's going to make a presentation. I would love to go to the Hayden Planetarium. Again, I've been there before, and see him speak live. I would love to do do that.
The Hayden, and of course, what's next door, the Museum of Natural History. I love both of those places. Which
is good, too. Yeah, I like that.
Which, by the way, shameless plug for something we both enjoy, is I believe it's right around the corner from a Fogo. So there you go. You got all three things. You got the Hayden Planetarium, you got the Museum of Natural History, and you got a Fogo. All within
Sounds like we got another trip we got to plan.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Economics.
Yes.
This sounds so boring until I read Freakonomics.
Great book. Great book.
Now, the thing that sparked my thirst for knowledge there is these mother effers can take large sets of data and tease out the freaking truth. Not what they suspect is happening, actual causation. And it's not just money. You can apply economic principles to any large scale cause and effect. And that's what I'm jazzed about. Here's an example. I found this fascinating. Japanese sumo wrestling. Okay. Japan has history going back thousands of years. In the United States, we're 300 years old. They have thousands of years of history. Sumo wrestling is embedded in the culture of Japan. It's set up in such a way that the way you win your bouts is you can get to the point where you have to play, but the outcome of a particular match has no bearing on you progressing. Okay? I don't exactly understand, but this is just a concept. Believe me, it's true. So what they figured out is if a good sumo wrestler is at the point where they have to play a match, but the outcome doesn't affect them at all, they will take bribes from the opponent and throw the match. They'll make subtle mistakes just enough to give the win to the opponent because it doesn't hurt the guy who's winning at all. It's just the way they've structured the sport. When this broke, imagine what it did to the culture of Japan, who this is the lifeblood of their society. And it's steeped in tradition, steeped in honor, steeped in good moral values with a rigid rule set that is fair and just and entertaining. When they found out that there was rampant corruption and all they needed to do was look at the data and they could tell exactly who's taking bribe with near 100% certainty. So this is the science of analyzing large sets of data to get to the root cause of a problem. And that was one of many things. I wanted to have this in the school where I teach, because they have high school level courses, but some of the material sort of crossed the line into societal topics that you don't want to bring up in school. Like one was the profits of drug dealing and how the low man on the totem pole gets less than a job at McDonald's. And it's only the top. They analyze. They plotted it out, the income structure of the entire corrupt organization from top to bottom. And then, so like you can't teach that in school. And then they also had thing about crime. They had why crime stopped in the 90s. Do you remember when like there was anyway? There.
All the work that was done in New York with the good block, bad block sort of neighborhood analysis. I think part of the Giuliani administration of memory with Ray Kelly. Memory serves.
Let's not go too much on this topic because I don't want to bring up what they said in the book. But it was just the the point is, it was equally fascinating. It just wasn't something comfortable for high school students to consume.
And I'm only painting the picture as the picture was painted, 30 years ago. We know better now in 2021, but that's the way the picture was originally painted.
Yeah. Put it this way. There was a reason crime went drastically down. And large data sets surfaced the answer. And it's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, these are the types of things and you know what? They've got things like Skillshare and LinkedIn Learning where you can learn anything you want.
The information is out there.
Procreate is a little iPad app for drawing with a digital pencil. It's a pro app. It's only $10, and there are gobs and gobs of YouTube channels for free, and then these learning courses in there that teaches you. It's amazing. It's
so going back to the original premise that we talked about 30 minutes ago. There really is no excuse. All the information you possibly could want is out there. Part of the problem I get, Matt, sometimes is that people don't know exactly what they want to know or have any sort of inspiration to learn. When you're stuck in that rut, Matt, what sort of quick advice do you say?
Observe the world around you.
Right.
And it's like, does this concept is what you're looking at before your eyes? Is it interesting to you? No, we'll go on to something else. Like I started just watching. I said to my son, because he was a young tween, and I said something to him. I'm like, well, a lot of men like to wear nice watches because men typically, now your mileage may vary, but men typically don't wear a lot of jewelry. And I said to him, I'm like, a watch is one way to, dress yourself up a little bit and give a little piece of individual flair. And he started buying these interesting watch, not a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then he showed me it, and I looked up on YouTube about these watches. And then I'm like, oh my God, there's a whole world out there where people just go nuts about these watches. And they make watches that are no battery. They're all mechanical watches. Yeah. And the movement, they call it the movement. It's like the little dials and spring and little
gears,
winders that happen just when you move your wrist around. I'm like, wow. And all the complications, they've got things that not only move the day, but it'll move the month. And some of them go into the moon phase. I mean, and it's all no battery. I'm like, oh my God, these are exquisite timepieces made by master craftsmen. Mm. And then, it just, I sort of fell into it. So if you're wandering through life, not knowing what you're into, like, figure out what you're into. I mean, like I had a meetup, which I shut down because of, 2020 and the year that shall not be named.
Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yeah. And now I have a Facebook group Facebook page about taco memes. It's like, it could be anything. It could be something as cars. What do you like? Do you like vehicles? Do you like toys? I know some guys that love the toy collecting. I started to get into that because, I figured out that they were redoing the Masters of the Universe, and there's these toy channels that talk about this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, there's like a whole world. There's whatever you're into, there is huge communities around lawn care. I got tired of paying ChemLawn to do my lawn with moderate success. I figured out how to do it myself. Guess what? There's only 3 things you need to do. There's only 3 things you need to do to grow your freaking grass like nobody else. And there's whole communities. There's lawn care communities out there where people are talking about the different techniques. Oh, do you use the spray or do you use the granular? There's stuff out there. Bowling. My brother is a professional bowler, and I helped him with his bowling channel, and there's a huge community about bowling and the physics of bowling and how to get the what types of materials are inside the bowling ball to make it lope and do different things. And there's fast balls and slow balls and hook balls. It's crazy. Golfing. There are so many golfing community. When I say you go to a sporting goods store, it's really a golf store with other sports around it, because the revenue comes from golf, because that's like a high product. The clubs are expensive, the gloves are expensive.
And they have places like Golfer's Warehouse that just does nothing but golf.
Yeah, that's what you should. Same thing for like a woodworking store. A woodworking store is really a lathe store with woodworking tools, because people go nuts for the lathes tools and the actual tools themselves and all the accoutrements and stuff like that.
So I think the one thing I would be remiss not to say, though, is that in all of this, and if there are roadblocks as far as trying to figure out exactly what you want to do and how to develop that, and you feel like there are things that you need to talk about, by all means, talk about them. Seek the therapy you need to, journal, meditate. Definitely do those things. We've been talking about that since day one on this show, and you should continue to do that, especially those that have come to me within the last few weeks saying, I don't know what to do, and I don't know where to go, and I don't feel high on life right now, all of that. I think it goes back to taking care of yourself, but then through that work and figuring out what exactly was causing those roadblocks, developing ideas about observing things, as you said, observing things and saying, you know what, I want to do something about that.
Yeah. Do you like roller coasters? Do you like playing amusement park games? It doesn't matter. Like, there's a lot of things you do in a given day that people get into shopping, like deciphering all of the Costco codes. Oh, you see an asterisk on the placard, that means it's the last, they're not going to restock it. Or if it has a 99 price versus an 89 price, it means manager special. People find
always
excitement
goes back to Costco. It always goes back to Costco.
People find excitement about minutia, just like things that you wouldn't think people can get excited about. There's everywhere. Go on Reddit, reddit.com. All it is communities of different stuff. Just surf around the website. What are you into? Cooking, grilled cheese. There's people that are in grilled cheese community. I know a guy, he's into pencil sharpeners. He's got a whole freaking community around wooden pencils and pencil freaking sharpeners.
Specifically number two pencils.
It is a pretty fascinating thing. That's not my cup of tea, but I'm like, stuff out there. There's exciting stuff out there. Go on Reddit, surf around. Go on Etsy, surf around. Go on eBay. What have you purchased? Like, what are the last 10 things you purchased? Is one of those something you want to explore? There's a whole hobby and community around all of this stuff. It's crazy, and it's not that hard.
No, it's not. It just requires a little bit of motivation and a little bit of elbow grease. And when I say elbow grease, I mean fingers to keyboard, fingers to mouse,
and
or hand
don't
and mouse.
Care what other people think.
No,
that is the biggest roadblock out there. Fuck that motherfucker. Who cares what that guy thinks? You go do it. And you want to fail? And don't be afraid to fail. I fail all the time. All the time. Get back up. Oh, I waste materials in the shop. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I got to go back to Home Depot. Doesn't matter. Just make something. Cobble it together and make, and
Easy says, pencils and sharpeners, how-tos, don't cut your fingers. Don't use pencil sharpeners as a vegetable grater.
It's great. Like, you would think that there's not that much content. There's huge amounts of content. Dune. There's whole people that just love the Dune series book. There's channels upon channels that just talk about Frank Herbert's book series and movies that are around one franchise. Batman. People go nuts about Batman. They're only into Batman. They're not into anybody else. Science fiction. I love good science fiction. I'm like, you saw how particular I am.
Very particular.
Like
very particular.
To say that there's one watch that meets all of Matt Haas's criteria. Imagine what I went through to find this one. It's the same thing.
49 points on that list, right?
I tell you what, I think I found it. Like, this watch is banging.
Easy says Wolverine's mask looks like two Batmans are kissing.
That is actually scarily true. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Yeah. I don't know. Do what you want. Stop caring what other people think, and don't be complacent. You stop letting actors act upon you as much as you can.
Own your own narrative. Own your own narrative. You
Memento mori.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. Couple of questions for you, or a couple of homework assignments, actually. One, you're free tomorrow at 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Can you do the show? Do you have talks?
Yes, I'm going to be there.
Cool.
As a matter of fact, I took off every Friday for the rest of the year.
Matt, thank you.
Well, I don't mean to say that as a flex, but I've worked for the company for a long time, and I have a lot of vacation. And other than doing one family vacation this year, it's been pretty sparse. So I'm like, hey.
Thank you for spending portions of your days off for the rest of the year on the VF Talks. I appreciate that.
Well, it comes with a price. I'm going to start invoicing you. No, I'm just kidding.
Fine. Just send it. Yeah, I'll pay you in Fogo. That's fine. The other thing I wanted to bring up for everybody is this weekend on Sunday. Actually, I'm interviewing a personal trainer. Someone I've been working with for the last 4 or 5 months. Has a good treasure trove of information with respect to personal training, but also nutritional health. So if you have any questions about personal training and nutritional health, and I'll throw one additional element that I did not have in the graphic here. I'll change it for tomorrow, but the relationship between physical health and mental health, because she has some opinions on that too. Her name is Stephanie Markstein. She's based in Westchester. Incredible personal trainer, incredible person. And I found her to be a really dear friend over the last few months too. Send me your questions to theventureforward@gmail.com. What's going to happen is I'm going to pre-record the interview on Sunday, because next Thursday I'm going back to the University of Pennsylvania for my next Osterfist infusion, but also an MRI, both in the same day. And I don't think I'll be in any sort of state to do Venture next Thursday night. So this will be pre-recorded evergreen for next Thursday. So if you can come up with your questions prior to Sunday, so I have a list of questions for Stephanie, that'd be great. I have a list of questions for her too. We will pre-record it on Sunday, and it will air 1 week from tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. Shameless plug done.
There we go.
And what I'll do is within the next 12 hours, I'll put up information on Stephanie's personal training service and a little more information about it. She has a couple of YouTube channels. I'll share all of that with you over the next 12 hours up on the Venture Forward pages. So just be on the lookout for that.
Good deal.
Matt, any final comments about the importance of trying to keep ourselves sharp, and sort of importance of mental health to physical health and overall health?
Do what you want. Ignore haters.
Ignore haters is right. And that phrase you said at the beginning of the show?
Memento mori.
Which means?
Understanding the inevitable walk towards death.
There you go. Not to be dire, but that's
essentially that's what it means.
A corollary to that phrase would be every moment's a gift, and tomorrow's no guarantee, and you can't do anything about the past, so you learn from the past and you don't dwell upon the past.
Yep. Yep.
Matt,
Do it. Do what you want.
Thank you, sir.
No haters.
Thank you for doing the show tonight. Thank you for telling your story. Muchly appreciated. I've wanted to do this for a while, and I'm glad we were able to do it tonight, for sure.
Well, I had a blast. I'm glad this worked out, and I guess I will see you tomorrow.
Man, I'll see you tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, but I'll make a formalized close off on that. Good night,
Sounds
Matt.
good.
Thank you,
Drop
sir.
a like, everybody.
Appreciate it. Bye. Matt Haas, ladies and gentlemen. A great friend as I try to go back to my camera over here. There I am. All things YouTube. A great channel he runs on YouTube. He does live stuff every Monday night. So go see his stuff. It is fantastic. Matt Haas, great guy. Bit of a preview of what's coming up. Tomorrow night we will have VF Talks as we normally do. At 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Where we will talk about anything and everything. And we have a good time with Matt Haas, Paul Burke, and all of you. Tuesday night, we're going to actually have a conversation about what the next infusion of Osterfus is going to be. And I have a conversation about what we've known or what we've talked about thus far about my multiple sclerosis journey, and also previewing what is up ahead next Thursday. Next Thursday will be the pre-recorded interview that I have with Stephanie. And again, I'll put that bug up real quick in the sense that if you have any questions with respect to personal training, nutritional health, the mental health, physical health connection, send your emails to theventureforward@gmail.com. Again, theventureforward@gmail.com. I will interview her on Sunday morning, so please send your questions before then. I gratefully appreciate it, and we will talk to a lot of your questions in that interview that will air next Thursday night at 8 o'clock. And then we'll do another VF Talks next Friday, too. So that's the schedule for the next 2 weeks. But I will say the same thing I say at the end of every Venture Forward and VF Talks. Stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. Have a great night. I will see you tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific for VF Talks. Have a great night. Fly be free.